Non-deliberately, the Prime Video's main and official website shows that The Rings of Power is a massive failure. Where's hi everybody, and welcome to yet another video. 'Tis time to remind ourselves of one little thing, my dear friends. As the time of the arrival of the second season approaches, which can be really guessed from the recent events and the recent information that have come out, it is getting in the center of attention, so that we know that the second season of The Rings of Prime is slowly approaching. We don't know whether it is going to be next year or 2 years from now. I honestly don't care. I mean, there are many people in my audience that will share this sentiment and saying, if The Rings of Power Season 2 never ever came out, I would be 100% absolutely alright with it. Nevertheless, I think it is time to reiterate what we have stated multiple times in the past and say why this show that you can see on the screen is a complete failure and actually very bad for both Tolkien fans and Lord of the Rings aficionados, even those people who have only seen Peter Jackson films, and complete normies who might have never even encountered the world of Professor Tolkien, or just people who have just a passing interest in the story, who might have seen The Lord of the Rings by Peter Jackson, who might have seen The Hobbit, are acquainted with the world of Tolkien just a little bit. So first and foremost, let us say and reiterate, why is it bad for all the fans who have actually read the books, the Tolkien canon. I am, of course, talking about The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, the posthumously published Silmarillion and the Unfinished Tales, the history of Middle-earth, and so on and so forth. Basically everything that was written by the only person who matters here, and that is Professor John Ronald Reuel Tolkien. It is precisely because, as you can see right there, under the headline Original Series, it is the original series by Amazon. And that, of course, but it has been proved, and I have covered this many times in my videos, this has got nothing to do with Professor Tolkien. This is a show that is constructed by Amazon, by Prime Video, by their writers, by their directors, by their producers, and it is made for, well, really nobody, as we will get to know throughout this video. If you look at the About, here, at the end, let us skip for a bit, but we will get to that later. Based on The Lord of the Rings and Appendices by J.R.R. Tolkien. Well, we know that before the show came out, we already had known that this is not true. We knew it. Now, more and more information was released, and we got to know that, well, no, they are not going to be adapting the Silmarillion. They are not going to be adapting the Unfinished Tales because they haven't got the rights for these two books. And so we, of course, were very well aware of the fact that we can forget about the story of Beren and Luthien being adapted, the Lay of the Children of Húrin, or even the creation of Middle-earth. Some of these things have been hinted upon in the book, but this is really the thing that the Rings of Power really have built their fake Tolkien atmosphere around, just hints and mentions of the names, and a character being taken from the appendices or from The Lord of the Rings, but really from the appendices here and there. So you've got Galadriel, who is not the Galadriel that we know from the books or from the films. We've got Elrond, who is not the Elrond from the books or from the films. We've got Gil-galad, who is absolutely nowhere near anything that he was described in the books. And we've got then all the awful, extraordinarily, fantastically bad time compression that thousands of years have been compressed into a matter of several weeks. We've got the added lore, which is Amazon's lore, and events that never happened in Tolkien's books, like the creation of Mordor by a turn of a key. we've got the fact that, according to Amazon, Mithril was found by Disa and is a sort of a life potion to elves because it contains the light of one of the last Silmarils. And we can be naming on and on and on. Now, those thousands of years before The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien, those three names here mentioned is an insult to Tolkien and everything that he stood for. And so that is why this show is an insult to every fan of the works of Professor Tolkien, because it is nothing that would be in any way close, remotely close, to what Tolkien wrote, and yet it uses his name. It uses the name The Lord of the Rings, because remember, The Rings of Power is only a subtitle of the title of the name. It's called The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. It is a leech. This is a leech drinking blood, sustaining itself on a famous name. And that is all that Amazon was ever about as far as The Rings of Power goes. Leeching on a famous name in a hope of making big buck, because they needed something close to Game of Thrones, which was still very popular at the time when they started making it. They wanted a huge fantasy story of the like of the Game of Thrones, but they needed something even better. They needed something even bigger. So they chose Tolkien, and they failed. And then, if you look, of course, it's more than a year later, if you look at the awards, for example, it has been proved, even by the critics and by the general audience, that the success of The Rings of Power is not as, real as they thought or as they have been talking about. Because, what is it, like eight awards mentioned here. All of them are awards that I had not heard about before I made a video about them or read about them. So that's first. I mean, you might have, but I haven't. So, and then if you look at here, it's just nominations. Nomination, 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 nomination. They haven't even won any of these awards. They haven't won People's Choice Awards. They haven't won Critics' Choice Awards. They haven't won Art Directors Guild Awards. They haven't won Motion Picture Sound Editors Award. They couldn't even win a Motion Picture Sound Editors Awards. Now, I mean, isn't that sad? No, it's actually not sad. It's very, very cheerful and positive in my eyes. However, and let me tell you that I think, just my humble opinion is that these awards, these nominations, are pity nominations. Because we all know what Ismael Cruz Cordova did in the show, and that is being a plank of wood and be a diversity hire. He literally, and this is going to be a controversial statement, he was a diversity hire, and we all know that, as well as Disa was. They were there to please the gods of inclusion, representation, and diversity in 2022 and 2023. The Lord of the Rings itself and all the stories of Arda being, of course, based on medieval and pre-medieval ancient Europe, meaning we know what. I don't have to go into depth in this video. There are many videos on my channel that are going into depth, and there is also a playlist called Rings of Power by Amazon, should you wish to know more about this. And if you look at the cast and crew, do these people, like all of them, if you just look at it in general, as a whole, do they look like people that would inhabit Middle-earth? Midgard? Or really, coming from Old Norse, Midgard? Do they? Some of them. But if you look at the total, no, this is the world of 2023, 2022. This is the primary world. This is the globe. This is the Earth being combined into one single web page. No, this is not Middle-earth. I'm sorry, but not sorry. Hello, Auntie Celebrimbor. Alright then. So, I'm very glad, actually. I'm very happy for being right and correct again. So this is just a summarization of what I have been talking about for the last year and a half on this channel, being summarized on the main official website of Prime Video. So, unwittingly and non-deliberately, they are admitting their own failure here by all this that they are displaying on their website. And now it is only time for you, my dear friends, to let me know in the comments down below what you think about this entire matter, and that'll be all. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm out of here.